Welcome to another edition of Dino. Welcome to another edition of Dino. This is 4.4. We have no theme song today because somebody left the iPad off the charger last night. His last name is the same as Gary V.
What's Gary V's last name?
So, here we go. We're going to start here today. How a bill becomes a law. Let us go. So, proposal. Okay? Bill would be a proposal. That is what is called a bill. So, a proposal for a new law. So, each bill starts as an idea from anyone. But here we go. They can only be introduced by a member of the Senate or member of the House of Representatives. So most bills begin in either the House of Representatives or the Senate. All bills specifically dealing with money must start in the House of Representatives. I said that yesterday. Those are called revenue bills. Bills introduced into the House of Representatives are dropped into a box called the hopper. And I know you're like, I don't need to know this, but that's weird. It's a little trivia fact. Bills introduced in the Senate are read aloud by the person introducing it. So, the bill is assigned a number. So in the House of Representatives, it is assigned a number starting with HR. So that bill would look like, let's say that this is the 468th bill proposed this year. It would say HR 468. If it starts in the Senate, it starts with an S, and then it would be 468. Then it gets into steering committee. So if the bill is important enough, the steering committee sends it to a standing committee, and you know that those are the permanent committees in Congress. That's where every single ounce of work gets done in Congress. So they could get sent there, or they could get sent to the select committee that would be specially created for that topic. So it gets to committee. This is where, again, the real work begins. The committee reviews the bill before it's sent back to the floor for debate and vote. So the committee has 5 options. They can accept the bill as it is without making any changes. They can mark up, which means make changes to the bill. And then they can put riders on it if it's in the Senate. So riders are amendments added to the bill that is unrelated to the topic of the bill. This is how they secretly get things passed. You know, they put riders on the end of the bills, and all of a sudden it could be a bill for equality, and then the rider would be like, I don't know, maybe they would try to give themselves a raise or something like that. So riders are different. They're like, they just don't go with what the bill is actually about. Number 3, they may replace the bill with an alternative on the same topic. And then number 4, they could pigeonhole it, which is a term. The committee can choose to ignore the bill altogether, and this will cause the bill to die. It will never reach the floor this way. Number 5 would be kill the bill, so the committee can decide that the bill is no good and completely reject it and verbalize that and basically say, we're not doing that. So let's say the committee does its work. They refine the bill and do all the things that they need to do to it. They would send it back to the floor. So floor debate, floor action. So in the House of Representatives, the Rules Committee, and again, those are the people who just decide, you know, when we talk about which bill, decides when the bill should be debated and sets a time limit for the debate. Each member's time and duration of the entire debate is set aside. So that's what they do. And then the Speaker of the House monitors the whole situation. That would be Nancy Pelosi right now. In the Senate, it usually happens a little bit different. Remember, the Senate is known as the upper house. There's less amount of people, and it's all equally represented by 2 people per state. So they usually debate the bills in numerical order, and senators, they don't have a time limit on debate. They can use this thing called a filibuster. I don't know if you've ever heard about that before. But this occurs when a senator or group of senators agree to never stop speaking about the bill. the goal is to kill the bill by having it withdrawn by the Senate because they won't stop talking about it. This has happened several times. One of the biggest ones was during the Civil Rights Act. So there were senators who didn't believe that the Civil Rights Act should be passed. And they filibustered for a very long time. One person, Strom Thurmond, filibustered for over a day. And altogether, the senators who wanted to oppose that bill, the Civil Rights Act, was, I think it was more than 72 hours of them non-stop talking. So what are some things you can do during a filibuster? You can read the entire Constitution. You can read the Declaration of Independence. You can do whatever you want as long as it's pertaining to the debate of the bill. It's messed up. A lot of people don't believe that it should still be around. Then you have B, which would be cloture. So a vote, usually before debate begins, to set a 1-hour time limit for each senator to speak. That's a good thing. So need 2/3 vote for this to even happen, and this is done to prevent or stop a filibuster. You might see that change in your lifetime. You might see filibusters get taken away because sometimes they're just, they abuse that power. Okay. Now, we go to voting. So to pass a bill in each house, a majority vote is needed. Okay, we have 3 options of how to vote. Voice vote, which you would just stand up and you would say yay, or you would say nay. Yes being yay and no being nay. Then you would do a standing vote possibly, so each member will stand up when called, and they would say, all in favor, you would stand up. All opposed, you would stand up. And then abstentions, which means you abstain, you would stand up after that. And then a roll call vote. This is kind of how it goes these days. So each member's name is called and their vote is announced out loud. But in this world, we used computerized voting for that. You can watch C-SPAN and see all of this in real time. Let's say it passes in the House of Representatives. Guess where it has to go? To the other house. It has to be passed by both houses. Each bill must be passed by both houses of Congress before the president sees it. The entire process begins again in the other house. Introduction, committee action, floor debate, then a vote. If it passes by majority vote in both houses, it gets to go to the president eventually. What would happen, though, if for some reason the House bill and the Senate bill, which is the same thing, but just barely different because, again, it's being worked on by 2 different committees, they would get together in a conference committee and nail those differences down. So the final version of the bill is passed by both houses. It must be identical. If changes are made after it goes to the other house, a conference committee meets, creates a version that can be agreed upon by both houses. It can be a little bit of a longer process if this has to happen. Then it gets to the president's desk. If he approves the bill, then he signs it, and it becomes law. If he disapproves the bill, that's called vetoing. So he refuses to sign the bill. He can send it back to Congress with suggestions or changes. And then how does Congress override the veto? They would have a 2/3 vote, not a majority vote, a 2/3 vote by both houses of Congress, and then it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if the president signed it or not. All right, because 2/3 is a lot more than just majority. Okay. And then what can the president do? He can do this thing called a pocket veto. So the president takes no action at all. Well, this can happen when Congress submits the bill with less than 10 days remaining in the session. The bill dies without even being finally decided on. Congress can work their tail off. And guess what? The president just puts it in his pocket, waits till Congress's session to close, and it just dies right there. So, all right, I want you to commit this graphic organizer to memory. Know every single ounce of this graphic organizer. Just kidding. It's when I look at this, I get anxiety. Okay.
Yeah.
But this is everything in one place. It's just a little much. So how Bill? It is kind of blurry. If you again, this is too much. It's way too much on one graphic organizer, but it's all right there.
Travis,
Mm-hmm.
can you go back to F?
Yes. Going back to conference committee. Okay, so if you were paying attention, you know that the exit ticket is true.
For
So,
today or for yesterday?
today. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.